In a small 3-bedroom house on the outskirts of town, Ramza and his wife spend a few quiet moments reading the Bible and praying.
I'm not a political person, never have been, never want to be. My focus is on loving people.
Speaking on the condition we hide his identity, Ramza is among a handful of Christians secretly sharing the gospel in one of Russia's most dangerous places.
I've been arrested many times. I'm constantly watched by the Russian police and radical Islamists, but I will never stop preaching. This is my home.
Home is the North Caucasus region. For nearly 2 decades, radical Muslims have fought Russian forces almost daily to take over the region for Islam. Their goal to turn 5 Russian republics, including Chechnya and Dagestan, into one huge Islamic emirate.
People of North Caucasus have historically practiced a traditional form of Islam, but that's changed as more people embrace a radical form of Islam.
The 2 brothers suspected in the Boston Marathon attacks were born and lived in the North Caucasus before moving to the U.S. In 2012, older brother Tamerlan Tsarnaev spent 6 months here in Dagestan. He made regular visits to this mosque in the capital city. CBN News tried to get an on-camera interview with the imam. He refused. Tamerlan reportedly met 2 known Islamic terrorists at the mosque, both of whom were later killed in shootouts with Russian forces. Investigators have yet to establish if Tamerlan received any training or had any links to known jihadist networks operating in the region. Chechnya was once the epicenter of the Islamist battle. Russia fought 2 brutal wars against Chechen fighters in the 1990s, trying to stop them from Islamizing the province. Yelena Mutraeva was only a year old when the first war started.
As I grew older, I heard stories from my parents of how horrible it was back then.
Tens of thousands were killed, hundreds of thousands of Chechens displaced.
I remember my parents and I crossing the border to a neighboring province once the bombs started falling.
It left the province in ruins. The capital city, Grozny, was decimated.
Several years ago, Grozny was described as the most destroyed city in the world. Not anymore. The Russian government has been pouring in billions of dollars, and in fact today Chechnya receives the most money out of all 85 provinces.
The evidence is everywhere. Rebuilt streets, walls once riddled with bullet holes are gone. New apartments going up, skyscrapers rising to the skies.
I don't think anyone could have imagined the changes happening this fast.
And the Kremlin-imposed leader of Chechnya has ruled with an iron fist, cracking down severely on radical Islamists in the province.
He has managed to keep them under control, for now.
But beneath the surface, Chechens, too scared to talk on camera, speak of a rising anger against the ruling authorities. Jihadists who once fought on these streets of Grozny have now taken the fight to the neighboring province of Dagestan. In May, a female suicide bomber attacked the central square in the capital, injuring dozens. The bombers in Russia are called Black Widows because many are the widows of Islamic radicals killed by security forces. More than a dozen Black Widows have carried out suicide missions since 2000.
Back in 1999, a group of radical Muslims attempted to turn Dagestan into an emirate ruled by Islamic Sharia law. The Russian army stepped in and quickly stamped that out. But since then, this province, home to about 2.5 million people, has today some 3,000 mosques and growing.
Sasha, another secret Christian believer, lived next door to 2 Islamic insurgents killed during a police raid. We've taken similar precautions to protect his identity. Sasha says he actively shares the gospel with Muslims in the North Caucasus. But it isn't easy. He was twice beaten by Muslims.
I always thought God would protect me as his son, but then I understood that if we have the honor to believe in our Savior, then we also have the honor to endure things that he went through in some ways. When we are persecuted and feel physical pressure in our lives, then we in reality start to understand and feel how close God is to us.
The provinces of the North Caucasus are one of the least evangelized places on earth. The rising Islamic fervor has prevented many Russians from even visiting the region. But for Ramza, Sasha, and other believers who work quietly in the shadows, it's a risk worth taking to make the name of Christ known.
Only Jesus can change lives and bring the hope people are looking for.
George Thomas, CBN News, Mahachkala, Dagestan.